yes, it is a time when we have the energy is really encouraging us to awaken. So it's awakening to wisdom, but it's also awakening to our own bodies and awakening to our own instruments. We are in the water. The environment has changed. The energy is so full and juicy and unctuous that he says it is like being in water. You know, you're in the swimming pool anyway. So being fully dressed as if it's winter doesn't work, right? Like it's time to put on the bathing suit, get your goggles if your eyes burn, and acknowledge the fact that you are in the water. Hello everyone, welcome to Soul Weather, your mid-month energy check-in. I'm Dany Lyne. I'm an intuitive, and for the last 20 years, I've been co-creating well-being and aligned manifestation with folks worldwide, physically, emotionally, mentally, and spiritually. In this series, I'm going to tap us into the main energy through line for the month so that you can ride the contractions and the expansions of the universal energy and translate it into your sacred flow so that you can ride your wave to the best of your ability. Join my YouTube channel so that you can get your mid-month energy check-in. So welcome to this first episode for the Soul Weather channel. I've had a Soul Weather channel before, and I'm bringing it back at this time also because the energy is really strong and will be strong in a consistent way for at least the next 12 months from what I can gather. So we can compare it to solstice. It's like solstice for 12 months. And you know how challenging solstice can be, and it's not just one day, right? You know that it's 2 weeks, 3 weeks, and you know what that feels like. But imagine that's what we're in right now for the next 12 months. And of course, it's to our benefit, because what we're ultimately poised to do here is grow and gain wisdom. All good. However, when we gain wisdom, right, the side effect of that is illusions and delusions and attachments and survival mechanisms and stories, tools that we've had in the past crumble so that the wisdom can emerge and a new form of expression and aligned manifestation can come into being. So that's where the discomfort, and I guess what we're talking about here is essentially growing pains. So what I'm going to do is tune in to see who I channel today, and really I'm asking a question. Often when I channel, I don't ask a specific question, but for Soul Weather, the question really is, what do we need to know so that we can harness this energy in the contractions and the expansive aspects of this energy and bring it into our being with as much comfort as possible, as much ease, and also so that we can embrace to its maximum the opportunities that are available. The energy that is coming in is the energy of Babaji. He's a Kriya yogi. And so first off, what he's saying is we have a tendency to feel that life is against us. People are against us. The weather is against us. Whatever it is, we kind of have an interpretation, a tendency to interpret the world in an adversarial kind of energy, and that, you know, we're fighting to survive, we're fighting to succeed, we're fighting to heal from cancer, right? There's a sense of the battle, and he says this really works against us right now. So that he's really recommending that we check those inner voices that are really have been reinforced culturally, have been reinforced in the media. There's a whole kind of language that's based on fear, and of course a language of fear also, right, presents an adversarial kind of conditions, right? So he's saying it's really the energy that's flowing right now is a river of love. It's a river, and the word love means a lot more than what we think it means. It's an embrace of your being and your potential as a spirit having this human experience, right? Your potential to transcend whatever limitations are presenting and that have accumulated and that you're lugging around. So it's really, he says, right, the word awakening is very precise. It is a time when we have, the energy is really encouraging us to awaken. You've probably heard this expression, the veil is thin right now. The veil is thin between us and the ascended masters, between us and the guides, between us and the sacred animals. And of all the different levels of deities and angels you can think of around the world, right, in all the different cultures, all the guidance that is there, the veil is thin. And the veil is thin because of this. They're excited. There's an excitement about the potency and the potential in us right now to see the light bulb go on and wisdom emerge and a change and a shift in consciousness to occur. So I've used the expression the all hands on deck a lot in the last 6 months. It is all hands on deck, but he's also saying it's enthusiasm and belief in us and trust in us and encouragement. And just think of all the best possible educational support systems, right? It's all these teachers showing up with this clear sight into your potential and into your actual capacity to move through the world with a pretty high frequency love, compassion, respect, to the point where it changes how you move through the world on a daily basis. So he's saying right now what's happening, if we're using the term thinning the veil, he's saying that the thinning the veil is also, we can say, it's at the level of, the notion of there's the big you, where you think, yeah, I know I'm a kind person, I know I'm a good person, and there's a kind of you that you kind of relate to in that way. And then there's the you that goes through the day. And he's saying right now, that distance between this almost like formless aspect of you could say, goodness and kindness and compassion, it's coming into the fact that now it's coming closer to this body, to this bag of bones, so that it's fully integrated into your skin suit, so that every action is informed by your wisdom. So he's saying the problem, right, is we act out of habit a lot. We have patterns, we have habits, we have go-to responses. And he's saying right now that's what's in the way. So that as this, you could say your high self, your soul, right, it comes by many names, it's really trying to inhabit and manifest in live action the wisdom that you actually have already. So a lot of folks right now, there's fear, and he's saying it's because there's this kind of sense of the fear of the unknown or going towards something unknown. And he says really it's not unknown, it's the wisdom that's trying to come in and get through the brambles of habit, get through the brambles of cultural formations, right? What we can call unconscious biases, all of it. Basically what he's saying, right, is this skin suit has a crust on it, and that crust has been formed not only by, right, your mother, your father, or the absence of mother or father, or, right, the narratives that you have in terms of your psychological portrait, if you want, and all of that. He's saying that what we're really pushing against right now, and he says people have done a lot of work on that aspect, but it's the systemic stuff that really comes in and at an unconscious level and actually controls and shapes your actions at a level that once you become really aware of it, it's actually shocking, right? The programming. So much programming in our educational systems, in our cultural environments, all the layers of being, like for me, so Canadian for so long, but at the same time, if you think of all the folks who are first, second, third generation immigrants or have parents in, you know, the complexities of it all, and how many different cultures are part of your field, the wars, the genocides, right? The stories and the narratives of success and trauma, all of it is really, he's saying, you know, we're like puppets within this system. And right now it's really that level of unconsciousness that's being called into awareness and into this process of awakening to that self that exists and has access to wisdom beyond any of these containers. By definition, a container, no matter how great it is and positive it is smaller than the infinite, just by definition. And what we're talking about here in terms of the level of wisdom, it's accessing and transcending information, hopping around, right, in linear time and space, and having access to wisdom, which actually comes from a place outside of linear time and space. So all this stuff that is the systemic conditioning is very limited to linear time and space. It's very limited to a sense of a certain attitude that defines reality in a very specific way, and actually doesn't allow for us as alchemical masters to function at levels that we've forgotten, that have been washed out and submerged in our beings. So, right, for instance, everybody is clairvoyant, clairaudient, claircognizant, clairsentient. Everybody has fabulous intuition and has an antenna to this wisdom. And yet, right, we've, through our educational systems and how we function with memory and how we construct our identities, we cloud and submerge these abilities and, right, parts of our brain, but also in terms of the engines such as the chakras, the Kundalini energy, all these phenomenal systems in our body that really aren't just the stuff of the great yogis or the stuff of the martial arts experts. It's all of us. And it's not extraordinary. It's actually what this instrument and what the way we're built, we're wired to function in much subtler forms than we are functioning. So it's awakening to wisdom, but it's also awakening to our own bodies and awakening to our own instruments so that we can start operating in a very, very different way. He's pointing out to me right now that I am noticing as a practitioner when I'm working one-on-one with people that if our being is not connected in a conscious way to the space above our heads and below our feet, people are suffering more than they did walking around disconnected, let's say 10 years ago. So he's just showing me my sacred tree, so I'm the one speaking right now using the language, is this whole business of the sacred tree and our roots and our branches, and of course our trunk with the heart, which is the central engine. But we're talking about, yes, there's the roots, but it's what the roots are in and what the roots access deep in the consciousness of the earth, of this planet. And it's what the branches tap into, to the sun, but also beyond the sun into the cosmos. So that he says it's very important right now to realize that the energy that is in us, the life force is living us, has a consciousness and is moving through you with your genius and your intentions so that healing and well-being is something you experience, but it's something you're offering to every other living being you're in contact with. He says, fundamentally, you could say the me, myself, and I era is on its way out. Basically, this notion of there's me, and my energy, and I'm tired at the end of the day because my tank is empty, right? All the narratives of limitation and container makes less and less sense, and we suffer more than we did when we don't plug in. And doesn't mean we're not going to be tired at the end of the day, because actually part of this transformation is tiring. But he's saying there's nonetheless a sense of accessing, just like a Qigong practitioner would, right? Accessing this juice and being consciously in relationship to this juice, the yin, the yang, the up and down, and then the turbines, and feeling that energy and allowing yourself to be lived by that energy. So the story of, yes, it is your life, you could say, it is your skin suit, it is your genius, there's a sense of uniqueness with it, but the fuel is coming from infinite space and from a dimension that is outside of linear time and space. The thing that creates life itself in you, through you, is not just of you. And he's saying that's really coming to a head right now. Walking around unconscious of that level of connection and fluid connection with this energy is, the consequences in a way are greater, because the energy is so juicy and so strong that when you're not connected in it, you're really walking around in a state that's actually hard to bear. It's really uncomfortable and miserable. There's an emotional reaction to it, there's a physical reaction to it. It's a bit of a banal analogy, but he says, I think it's like, you're in the swimming pool anyway. So being fully dressed as if it's winter doesn't work, right? Like it's time to put on the bathing suit. If your ears hurt in the water, put on your bathing cap, get your goggles if your eyes burn, and acknowledge the fact that you are in the water. And of course he says he likes the analogy, actually. It says it's not silly. It just looked silly in my head when he's talking to me about goggles and swim caps. But he says, it's literally, right? It's like people are moving as if they're outside of the swimming pool, But you can't, in the water, walk and move in the same way as you do when you're outside of water. So right now, that's the thing. We are in the water. The environment has changed. The energy is so full and juicy and unctuous that he says it is like being in water. And so to the more we acknowledge it, the more we're going to have the right gear on, and the more we're going to start allowing ourselves to be influenced by that unctuousness and learn how to ride it and learn how to be in it. And he says, eventually learn how to swim and actually swim. But first we got to be in it, have the right gear on, and at least know we're in it. And he says that's the level of awareness and awakening. That sounds really basic, but think of the world we live in. That's not how people are functioning. Generally, I'm living in Bali, and I'm here because I'm fascinated by being in an animist culture. They're aware of it here. This is what we're talking about, is being in a culture where we're aware of the magnitude of the flow of everything being alive, everything being part of this consciousness, and everyone and every moment of the day is part of the consciousness. It's not like 9 to 5 while you're doing your thing that you've been doing for 20 years. It's not happening. It's still happening. And that's the thing, is to not just feel it when you're in your sleep, because that's the gift of sleep, but to be fully awake when you're awake, and to be aware and to catch yourself when you're in autopilot, basically. It's like you're outside of the range of joy at this time. So he says the big irony here is that all of this drama, right, of this change of consciousness and this higher frequency that we're exposed to, is really that what's on the other side of it is joy. A very sweet feeling in the heart of knowing you're loved, a sweet feeling of somebody's got your back, the sweetness of being aware of all the beauty around you and how it's expressing. And the beauty of not being in charge. Right? To be with life and not feel like you have to be in control or in charge of life in any way, but to be with it. And when we're with it, what he's showing me is right now, because it's a surge, right, in the energy system, he said it's going to be like, whoa, well, you're going to be riding a wave, because you're going to be like, oh, well, that's changing. Okay. Right? My genius is expressing slightly differently, and I'm feeling drawn to doing this, and I'm interested in that, and like, oh my God, and then it's going to soften, and then it's going to be, whoa, right? So he says right now there is that sense, but the more you're with it, the more you'll touch that joy. So he's back to the swimming pool thing, and he's saying really in the morning, right? He says it is a lot about clothing and briefcases and bags and portfolios and what have you. He's saying it's when you're gearing up in the morning and you're about to leave the house, or you're getting ready to work on your computer at home, or you're whatever it is, right? He says this whole moment of gearing up that is so patterned into us from the time our parents were, or whomever was trying to get us to school on time. Like all of that morning routine patterning when you're about to leave, or it's sort of like, the show is on for the day at a certain point, he says, really ask yourself, make sure you have your swimsuit on and your goggles, because you're actually going swimming, regardless of what you think you're doing and regardless of what you've been programmed to do. And he said, if you can catch yourself there, everything you've done unconsciously that is patterned into you. And he said, before you leave, half or more of the stuff that you've brought on, which a lot of them are thoughts and assumptions about the day, he said, imagine if at that moment you actually put them in the closet and leave them there for the day. And he said that morning moment is really strategic, because he says that's when, in a way, we put on the outfits and all the identities that we have and all the assumptions that come with it and all the survival, right, methods, everything. And he said, as much as you can, leave as much of it behind as you can. And experience every day as it is, as a new, entirely new moment. There's nothing about today that's going to really be like yesterday. Even if it's the same car, the same bus, the same bike, the same room, nothing about it is like yesterday. Which is true, he says, always, but is especially true now in this heightened current. Every day is an adventure, and every day is an opportunity to learn and grow and do things differently than what we've done before. And then he says, true, that will be tiring, so go to bed early. Go to bed earlier. Or take naps. Because it's exhausting, right? Because we're so used to these habits, and in a way we think they're less tiring. They're actually really draining. But while we're trying this new way of being, we're actually going to be tired, and we're going to need time out. Sleep hygiene is really essential right now. So anything that, at night you think, oh, I'll just check out for an hour and watch Netflix and that'll be relaxing. He said, no, just actually bring yourself to quiet, read a spiritual text or read a poem, or go into a different, more poetic, more spiritual frame of mind. Waft in that perfume for a bit and put yourself and just go to bed. Yeah, so it's like part of the habits that we're deconstructing right now also is the habit of checking out and dissociating and distraction. We're really talking about a certain daily, practices that remind you that you're in the pool and that you need to have your swimsuit on, however you get there, whether it's your qigong, your mini yoga morning practice, your meditation, your journaling, your walk with the dog, whatever it is really allow for that moment to be a moment of dropping into this juiciness and this water and unctuous energy, so that you feel it, so that then you notice when you're putting on gear that takes away and identities before you head out the door, identities that cut you off from that feeling. So have another checkpoint and then go into your day. And then at night, also do whatever you need to get back to that. Whatever you do for that awareness of that unctuous energy to be experiential for you, and then go to bed. Yeah. So there's a gentleness, a restfulness, a relaxation that needs to be cultivated to help us tune in. So prayer, whatever it is for you. It's a great school, really. We're all in school for this wisdom. So it's a lovely space. It's just challenging for the parts of ourselves and those habit parts. Yeah, is what I'm getting. It's just, and to honor that, right? And go, oh my goodness, okay. Yeah. Yeah, and I'm just, and respecting, right? Respecting where all those biases come from and those survival mechanism comes from and those habits come from. And just with compassion, right? Really, this is really leaning into it with so much compassion and just going, and there you are. And let's kind of figure this out and kind of see if we can get you in the pool. You need to be in the pool. Yeah, too, right? Yeah. And that I'm getting includes grandma and great grandmother who might have been in a war or whatever. She needs to end up in the pool with you. So this is a lot of ancestral healing as well. Everybody's going to be in the pool. Everybody. So I really got a big whiff of all the ancestors as well. So blessings to all of you who are here present. Blessings to all of you joining us via the recording. And blessings to all your ancestors. And may we all get the most fabulous swimsuit and floaters and whatever we need to be in there and have a really great, great pool party. Yeah.